investment expert, and joins us to discuss this all-important topic as we begin to look at the performance of the Nigerian economy in the year 2018. You're welcome.
Right, thanks for having me.
Well, let's look at investment. How would you assess generally? How would you assess investment into the economy in 2018?
Yeah, it's been pretty much not as much as we would have wanted it to be as a nation, but I mean, the good thing is what I noticed in the data that came out, by the National Bureau of Statistics, the portfolio investment actually reduced, but foreign direct investment increased. So that means there's something that we're doing right, which if we continue in that direction, we'll get more investors to want to have interest in our nation and want to do business in Nigeria.
Okay, it's a portfolio investment.
Yeah.
Could you
that would be those who, the investors that participate in the capital market, those who just come to buy shares in existing corporations, those who play there.
Now, what about foreign direct investment?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Foreign direct investment actually increased. If you look at the data from after the recession, now it's been moving upward up until, the one of 2018 was really high, or, above $500 million, so that's pretty high, looking at it where we are coming from after the recession. So it goes to show that, yes, the executive orders given, our going up in ease of doing business have actually started, affecting the way, the consciousness of investors who want to do business in Nigeria. But don't also forget the fact that we're going towards a highly contested election here. So you will see that investor sentiment will actually will go down a bit, because a lot of people want to see what direction is this nation going to. Because if it's going to be a change of government, so that means there will be change in policies and every other thing.
So okay, let's look at infrastructure. How would you assess what role does it play in the overall economy in 2018?
Now, if you bring it
most especially power.
Okay, if you bring it side by side with investment, or how it affects the investors, how investors see things when it has to do with infrastructure, that's one of the key things that every investor will look at before they invest in your economy. We're actually doing so much in trying to market this country, because the kind of infrastructure that you require to push out your goods and services, we don't have as much compared to other countries that we're competing with. And don't forget, the way you are actually becoming better, that's how every other person is working towards becoming better. So it's a competition between you and other countries. And I say this all the time, China is still looking for investment, America is still looking for investment. So all the investors will look at it and say, okay, between China, Brazil or other countries and Nigeria, let me take my decision. So we have to work harder in infrastructure, like you said, power. A lot of things will come into play here. Yes, there's been an executive order, but there are things that are from legislation that you can't change. If you want to do power today, as we speak in Nigeria, you need to interface with at least 5 different agencies of government. Starting from, you have to acquire the land if it's going to be in a location. That means you have to deal with the state governor. When you're done with dealing with the state governor, you will come to NERC. NERC, for you to get your license, before you get your license, you must provide them with your evacuation study, your transmission evacuation study, which must return back to them. When they've gone through all of that, you pay, and then they'll give you the license. And when you're done with that, then you now go back to TCN, Transmission Company of Nigeria. Transmission Company of Nigeria will actually look at that, look at your evacuation corridor, if it suits what they can accommodate. Then when you're done with them, you go to Ministry of Environment. Ministry of Environment must have your EIA done to make sure that the environmental impact assessment is in order. And when you're done with that, you go to MBET. MBET is another organization in government. They are the ones, since you don't put power in a shelf, they're the ones that will say, okay, I'm going to buy this power, I'm going to guarantee to buy this power. So when you're dealing with this, I almost forgot, you have to also deal with, if you're doing gas to power, that means you have to also deal with NNPC. So you see, these are things that are acts of legislation that we have to actually, executive orders will not change anything here. It's something that the government has to actually change the laws, so that people will now say, okay, we have reduced the kind of the amount of agencies that I must deal with before I can get power generated. So these are the things that people must look at. That's why even in this era, when politicians say, "I will give you 10,000 megawatts of power," I laugh because it's just a joke.
Okay, what about access to credits? Have the nation recorded any improvement?
Of course, we have recorded high level of improvement, because I mean, if you look at the Anchor Boras program, that's an effective program that have actually worked. It's worked because of the way CBN structured it. Now, but have we gotten to where we're supposed to be? No, we still need to do a whole lot, because a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of those who have ideas, still don't have access to what I call the investment, the initial investment capital, because we don't have a venture capital system in Nigeria. Okay. Now the CBN, I think was in their last one of their meetings, a few months ago, said something about the bankers committee to now look at how they can invest some of the monies that they have into providing equity for bootstrapping for MSMEs and all of that. So, but for now, we're still at that level where, yes, we've increased credit to medium and micro, the smaller enterprises, but it's not, it's not big enough. It's not enough for the level of growth that we expect in our country.
Now, the investment aligned with the provisions of ERGP in 2018?
Of course, see, ERGP is a document that, if you go through that document, you see that until we add the S in front of the ERGP, yes, the implementation might be a bit slow. What does the S stand for? The S stands for the State Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. Now, until we domesticate some of these programs to the state government level, where the state government will take ownership of some of these programs, it will be difficult for us. But it's in line with what the projections that they've made. But although the GDP growth projections they made, we've not been able to reach that. We're still at 1.8 as against 3% growth, which was predicted in the document.
Okay, mining seems to be attractive. Does it pose a threat to the manufacturing sector?
No, it doesn't. They all complement each other, funny enough. And the funniest thing is that you can't do mining without solving the issue of infrastructure. Now, infrastructure is key, because when you're doing mining, that means you're going to be dealing with heavy metals. Now, those heavy metals cannot be conveyed on our roads the way our roads are. So you have to have your rail system working. So that's why the investment that this present government is doing towards the developing our railways is actually one of the best things that have happened to us as a country. And again, our inland waterways must be opened so that because these are things that you must be, you have to export. They have to be taken out of the country. So your inland waterway must be, must be functional, effective. You must have an effective inland waterway for mining to flourish. I say they complement each other because manufacturing, there's some raw material, support program that we must design where the mining sector must support the manufacturing sector. It's just like if you go into agriculture, you can't do things like glucose syrup, which is something that you need as a nation, because the way it is now, if you ask me, I'll tell you that things as simple as tom-tom, tom-tom is made up of 3 items: glucose syrup, coloration, and then your flavoring. If these 3 items are gotten from China, India, and Turkey, what does that mean? We assemble tom-tom in Nigeria, not made in Nigeria. So these are things we must look at, so that our industrial revolution will be, centered around looking at our raw material support system, so that the manufacturers will not also come and depend on our little foreign exchange to still want to go and import raw materials. Okay,
Nigeria has emerged one of the early gainers of the Median Intra-Africa Trade Fair in Cairo, Egypt, and with $2.24 billion deal for regional trade expansion. What's your take on that?
I still stand with the Manufacturers Association, because now if you if you open up your borders the way we are now, because we are the largest market as far as Africa is concerned because of our population. If we open up our borders, a lot of things will be dumped here. And I still say this, we need to do a whole lot more than just signing agreements and going into, some of these treaties. Sometimes you have to look at yourself, look at your state and where you are per time before you take certain decisions. Now we are benefiting from it. Those kind of benefits that you see are, as far as I'm concerned, they're a bit like mirage. Because at the end of the day, there will still be a whole lot that will be dumped here than a lot that more than what we can take out in the immediate. But maybe in the next 5 years, with the direction that we're going to now, yes, we can actually look at ourselves and say, okay, let's open our borders and do business.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ogbonna Ukuku, for your contribution.
All right, thanks for having me, sir.
Nigeria's Stock Exchange